Hello fantasy managers and welcome to the final video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. I should say that the final video this season, we're going to be producing a lot more content next season, and we've got lots and lots of planned on the site, so next season is going to be really, really big for us. But this video is going to be looking at a bit of a season review, going to be having a look at last game week, going to be having a look at what worked this season, what didn't work, and the lessons we can learn really for next season. And we've got a few community questions on that as well. Let's get to it. So quickly then, I had a good final game week. I jumped up into the top 500, a rank of 355. Very, very pleased with that. Third top 1000 finish, my second highest rank ever. And yeah, it's been a very good season. Final points of 79 this game week. I brought the transfers I made actually didn't really pay off. I brought in Milivojevic and Vardy, and I actually made my first FPL mistake of the whole season. Had a couple of beers on Sunday, and I benched the player that I brought in, which was Vardy. In the end, it didn't cost me anything because the player that I would have benched instead, Ward-Prowse, scored the same point. So I got a bit lucky there, but otherwise my team performed well. That defense of Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Laporte that has served me so well over the last few weeks came good once again. Redmond coming in as a bit of a differential, as well as Mane. Shame I didn't captain him. I was very close to doing that. But Aguero, at least he got the 6 points doubled to 12 as captain. So a strong final game week and the highest rank I've had this season. So no complaints. But there are some things that I can learn from this season and mistakes that I've made, and we'll come to those in a second. Okay, so a question that I get asked a lot is, what formation should I play? And if you go back a few years, everybody was playing 3-4-3. There was a lot more value in the strike force and the midfielders. Nowadays, though, that has really shifted. There's so much good value in defence, especially with the wing backs. And you look at that screen there, and that my most common formation, although 3-4-3 is the individual one, I've predominantly played actually 4 at the back. Over 50% of the time I'm playing 4 at the back. So playing with a lot of value defenders, likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Digne early in the season, Mendy early in the season, Laporte recently. But it's really those wing backs who have really transformed the formation. And I think that's going forward, that's going to be massive. And I'll have a look at the end of this video of actually points per start, and you see those wing backs are producing. They're producing similar returns to the forwards and the midfielders. So next season I think it's going to be similar. And if the likes of Trent and Robertson aren't priced below 7 million, they're going to be straight into my team. But as you can see there, in terms of formation for points per game week formation, actually 3-5-2 was the best for me, although I only played that 4 times. That's suggesting there's quite a lot of value in midfield. I would say though that take that with a pinch of salt. This is just from my team. It would be interesting if there was someone out there who would be keen to do sort of an analysis of every team, because I think that that's probably the better way rather than looking at my individual team. But some interesting data there, and I think that the main takeaway for me is that keeping flexible in your formation and having a plan in terms of not sticking to I only play 3-4-3. You've got to be flexible. You've got to look to move players around from game week to game week and plan ahead, think about when you're going to switch formation and how you're going to do that as well. And again, this is just to illustrate my point. Defenders, although they're bringing in slightly less points because they offer such good value, they're actually scoring higher points per million by position. So defenders there are the highest points per million by position. Interestingly, midfielders are the lowest, and forwards are top. This, again, I should iterate, this is just for my personal team. It'd be interesting for somebody to do this analysis of all the teams and see if this trend holds true. I should also add that these tools are from Premier Fantasy Tools. So if you want to go have a look at your own team completely free, go check those guys out. Okay, a question there from FPL Governor, who asks, do you think FPL has become harder to succeed compared to previous seasons? And I think it has. There's just a lot of content out there. A lot of sites. Obviously, Fantasy Football Hub is producing the best content, and but that's an example of how, there is more content, there is better content, and that content is more easily accessible. If you go back 5-10 years, that content just wasn't there. So there are a lot more FPL managers that have a lot more knowledge on the game, and there are a lot more managers overall. So getting a good season rank has become a lot harder. And I'll just show you in this graphic here. So basically each year on year, there becomes more FPL managers. And this year the final total is over that 6 million mark. So again, it's grown, and I think next season we're going to be looking close to the 7 million mark total players. So getting a high rank, getting that top 10,000 finish, which is always my goal, is becoming harder and harder. So yeah, I'm very pleased to finish where I did, and the next season is going to be another challenge, I think, and trying to achieve those top ranks does become a lot harder. Question from Rob here. Great guy. Go check out the Hype Train as well. They produce some really good FPL content. And he's saying you've got to talk about the thread with prospective changes you put up on the Hub Twitter. So this is a tweet we put out, and it got loads of replies. And as Rob said, I could talk about this for ages. So the tweet that Rob is referring to is, if you were to make one change to FPL for next year, what would that change be? And if you haven't commented on this tweet, maybe drop a comment below and let me know what change you personally would like to see. And as Rob said, I could go over all the answers to this, and there's some really interesting suggestions, and I suggest you go check out that tweet. But for me, I think the one change that I personally would make, and there was a couple of people who said similar in the comments on Twitter, is to make more positions viable. And I think you could do that with a few different strategies. For example, Sky, they have bonuses for tackles and passing. And if you get a certain amount of tackles, you get a certain amount of passes, then you get points for that player earns points. So that makes defensive midfielders actually viable options. Players like Kante, he's a fantastic player in real life, and I think that those type of players should be options for your fantasy team. At the moment, they're just not. As Rob said, I could go on about this for hours and hours, but I like to keep these videos fairly short, so I'm not going to go over all the different ones. But yeah, as I said, pop a comment in below and let me know what one change that you personally would make. Okay, final question there is, what major mistakes do you think you made this season, and where have the big points been lost? And I had a good season, but there are always lessons to be learned. And I think the interesting one here that comes to mind straight off the bat is, here's a list of my favourite captains. Aguero, the most popular one, then Salah, and then pretty much a whole sprinkling of other players. And my captains have been fairly successful, so I don't think I should be overly critical with this. But I think it's kind of interesting to look that, for example, Sterling, only selected him once, and I selected Aguero 14 times. Why did I do this? When if you look at points per start over the whole season, there you go, Sterling is top. 7.2 points per start. He should be your number one captain choice, and for some reason I've been going Aguero. I think in my head it's always been that explosiveness of Aguero, and he did get me that hat-trick, so it has paid off to a certain extent, and he's always been on penalties, and I've just preferred him for security of start slightly. But as you can see there, I think that is definitely a mistake that I've made. Sterling has produced, he has been the best captaincy option over the whole season. Hazard, interestingly there, if you go back to the previous screen, I've selected Hazard twice. I think he paid off for those twice, and that's probably a lesson which I should learn, is that Hazard, he has been a frustrating player to own at some points, but he has actually been very consistent this season, and 7 points per start. He should have been my captain more often. Salah, I did captain him quite a lot. Interestingly, Alexander-Arnold in 4th place there. So for me next season, if Alexander-Arnold doesn't come in at, even if he comes in around 7 million, he's up there with the best players in the game, and I think that he even at 7 million, I'd probably get him in my side. Similar to Robertson, to be honest, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't come in at 7 million, and he's producing the goods. Like, if you look at that list, everybody apart from Trent and Robertson are above 8.5. So it's those two for me have been probably the picks of the season. But nevertheless, I think that is interesting. I think that is a lesson that I can learn for next season, is to really be quite reflective and more analytical in terms of the captaincy decision that I make. But at the same time, Aguero has served me really, really well, and I think that he's got to be a captaincy option for next season. It's going to be interesting the way they price it. Are they going to price Sterling as more expensive than Aguero? I think that they probably will. I'd be surprised if Sterling is anything below 12.5, really. It'll be interesting also to see if they change positions. The likes of Salah and Mane, they probably should be classed as forwards, and I think that they probably will, and that would be interesting to see how that affects their price. So I think there are going to be a few changes to player pricing and player classifications. I'll be surprised if there are any major changes in terms of the actual layout of the game and how it's played. FPL like to keep it quite simple, and that is one of the beauties of the game, that it is simple to take up and for people to get their head around. They might tweak the chips. I know that they do a rich uncle chip in the Norwegian league, which is the same makers of FPL, and that's effectively a free hit, but you can choose. You have an unlimited budget, so something like that I can see them bringing in, and I think that would be a good addition. And that's it from me this series. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn those notifications on, because we are producing lots of content over the summer. I'll be producing lots of free videos, so more like this. But also I'm going to be producing a how to win at FPL strategy series. So what the How to Win FPL video series will do is take the 10 years that I've been playing FPL, and the time since I've been running the site and doing FPL every single day, and it's going to be turned that into bite-sized video lessons for you guys. 2 to 3 minute videos on everything from how to play your chips, how to take points hits, timing your transfer, even some of the psychology behind playing FPL. So I'd like to just thank everybody that has been involved with the hub, especially all our contributors, especially you guys for following. It's been a crazy season for us. It's been really, really successful, and I think next year is going to be an even bigger one, and I'm very, very excited about next year. To anybody who might be interested in contributing to Fantasy Football Hub, we are looking for new contributors always, really, and so if you do have a good record of playing fantasy football, it can be across different formats, so maybe you're really good at Sun Dream Team or Sky or Telegraph or whatever the format is, then and maybe you have a background in writing or even a background in video creation, those are the type of people that we're looking for, and we're always very open to collaboration. After all, we are a hub, so it is about lots of different people contributing to the site. So I'll put a link to becoming a contributor to Fantasy Football Hub in the description, and it's got a form there and explains a little bit more about how the site works. So go check that out if you're interested in contributing. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a great summer and take a break from fantasy football. I know I won't, but I'll try to enjoy the summer, and looking forward to next season, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye for now.